Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Bad Ideas Garage. My name is Steven and this is my $800 Nissan Frontier that's supercharged from the factory. Unfortunately today it's going bye-bye. In today's video I'm going to do a little bit of a review of the Nissan Frontier Supercharged and also tell you the story about why it got in the first place, why it's going away, and all of the repairs that I did to it. Stick around. Surprise! Yes, indeed, it is supercharged. In fact, it tells you right there on the fender, it's supercharged. In fact, it also tells you back here that it is supercharged. And then over here, it says it is supercharged. And then as I'm driving around, let me tell you, it sounds supercharged. This one, it's a little rough. And I got it for $800 for a couple of reasons. Let's take a look. Now, for starters, it is horrendously dirty. And believe it or not, this is actually way cleaner than when I got it. And it also reeked like different types of paraphernalia. If you're here in Oregon, you probably know what that is. Overall, it's actually not bad because everything is mostly complete and undamaged with the exception of that in the floor mat. I mean, on the outside, you have some paint that has some issues over here. And overall, it's just kind of faded. And the headlights are a little foggy, but that can be fixed. But overall, it's generally not that bad of a truck whatsoever. There's a couple of scratches here, there, some paint fade on the top. And then back here, of course, that latch is broken, so I had to take this off. But this was $800 for this, and I think that I got a phenomenal deal. Now, the reason why I got this in the first place was because I wanted to have an adventure vehicle with my kids to be able to go do fun truck stuff over the summer. However, this one, I decided it's just a little bit too far gone for me to be able to put my children in it. So I'm selling it to someone else and they're going to be taking it from here. I mean, honestly, though, I loved the dimensions of this truck. It never felt like it was so wide and so long that it was hard to park ever. I just thought that the stance looked really good. I like that it has the brawny big rack on the top and it has a 6-foot bed in the back. And I'm sure that if you're a real truck driver, you're like, that can't fit a full sheet of plywood. Guess what? I don't really care because I just, put the tailgate down and it was always completely fine. I just thought it was a really cool looking truck. Nissan tried a couple of different wheels. I took off the little hub covers because I thought that it looked better having that exposed after I did a little bit of suspension work in the front. But this is genuinely just a really cool looking truck. In 2005, they went to another generation of this and then they ran that from 2005 until like 2021 and is a little bit more angular. And I love the smooth look of this. You know, the whole story of this truck, actually, it's because when I bought it, it had some title issues, but I know that the person that bought this bought it new. It was grandpa who loved this truck and checked every single box. And this thing was a pretty expensive truck back in the day. To give you a little bit of perspective, this truck, when you added the supercharger on it, it had about 210 horsepower, could tow about 5,000 pounds. But for just a little bit more money, you could get an F-150 with the base V6 that had about 200 horsepower, but it was a bigger truck. And so I think one of the reasons why these didn't really sell as well or they're not as popular is because for just a little bit more, you could get a much more capable truck. But let's go ahead and do a little bit of an interior walk around. Again, believe it or not, this is much cleaner than when I got it. But I like that the supercharged variant, you got these cool seats and you got power door locks and power windows, which was all sorts of fancy. Gosh, this is have power. Oh, it has power mirrors too. Look at us go. But very basic truck. And I absolutely love it that there really isn't anything too fancy about this. It does have cruise control. The cruise control works, which is great. It has air conditioning. Air conditioning sort of works, as I found out. Of course, you have your 4-wheel drive high, your 4-wheel drive low. This one's an automatic. They did make these in a manual transmission, I guess. I know that in the Xterra, at least, you can get with a manual transmission. And the owner who wants to get, the future owner of this truck actually wants to put a manual transmission in it. This is the fancy Rockford Fosgate sound system that doesn't work over here in this speaker, but actually sounds halfway decent. Back here, this is actually a decent space. Okay, it's a little bit smaller than what I wanted. But I mean, I'm 6 feet tall and this is definitely functional. And that was a lot more fun than I thought. There isn't really much more to say about the back seat. You got a charger that was pretty cool. Let's do a startup. All right. So yes, there are a couple of warning lights on here. I just love that noise. Go ahead and open up the hood. This is probably what a lot of y'all want to see. This supercharger. So this supercharger was used, it's a Eaton supercharger, was used on other vehicles of the era, including Mercedes, The Mercedes compressor series had an Eaton supercharger on it, and Buick had an Eaton supercharger on it. Well, so it's really, really common. People do put a smaller pulley on this, and you get a little bit more power out of it. This thing only had like 210 horsepower with the supercharger. This is not a fast truck whatsoever, but it makes all the right noises, which is fun. Now, this is where I get to start talking about the fun story of the things that I've done under the hood. And I've done many things under the hood and behind the wheels. So starting over here, the power steering system. This is actually one of the reasons why I got this truck for so cheap, is because the power steering was leaking all over the place. You can see some residue from that. And I'll link all my videos for my repair of that once I get them all done. But first I replaced the power steering pump because it was making absolutely horrendous noises, particularly when I was taking a right-hand turn. I didn't really think about why it was a right-hand turn, but I went ahead and replaced it. It was inexpensive. It wasn't that bad. And I realized, of course, that wasn't actually fixing the problem. This hard line right here was actually leaking, but only under boost. So I had a friend move back and forth and saw that this was leaking. Pretty sure that probably shouldn't be doing that. Maybe. And this whole assembly for the high pressure side and the low pressure side, it's a gigantic assembly. It goes down and under and over here. And I replaced that entire thing, which was more of a pain in the butt that I really wanted. It's still actually leaking a little bit from over here. And I think it might actually be this aftermarket power steering pump reservoir might be leaking. It might be actually leaking still from here, so I have a seal kit that I'm giving to the new owner. One thing that was a pain in the butt, now that I have some decent light that I can show you, that hard line, I ended up cutting off with a Dremel. That plan worked. Okay. Well, this was the guy. Had a couple of char marks there. Yeah, so these 6-side sockets, that's what did it. Go sports. Otherwise, this thing it runs pretty well, and I'm really, really thankful that it does run pretty well. And one of the biggest reasons why I'm actually getting rid of it and I don't want to put any more money into it is because of the suspension. That's where we're going to go next. So when I first got this, these tires are used. They came with it. When I first got it, you could actually see the metal on the inside of the tire. So now that I'm seeing this in the day, and I looked kind of closely at these tires, and yeah, that's probably not good, I don't think. All right, so one of the reasons why, see that? That's a new tie rod that's in there. And I also put new end links. It's because both of those were absolutely horrendous, and also there's still some pretty good play in the suspension. So what needs to happen is that the control arms need to be done. That one actually has a new control arm on the top. Low control arms because those bushings in there are shot. And then there's a yoke somewhere in the steering that's causing just a lot of play. And that's one of the reasons why I'm letting it go. And then over here, I'll link a video to this. This over here, I can move this wheel back and forth is because this wheel bearing needs to be replaced. Figure out part of the problem. All right, enough lamenting about me and this truck. Let's go ahead and do a spirited drive down my closed course. Yes, this is a closed course and a private road. I know people joke about that, but we're going to do a little bit of a 0 to 60, both zoom by and also from a point of view perspective. This is going to be fun. And then we're going to go get it out on the road, and I'm going to go and wax eloquently about what it's like to be a dad and have to sometimes let go of nice things. I will say that the way that this thing drives, I absolutely love it. It's got a really good driving position. I mean, it's a little bumpy over some of these roads here in Albany, but also at the same time, this thing has 259,000 miles on it, and those shocks look really, really old that are in there, but I really like how everything is laid out. The driving position is really nice, and then it handles halfway decent for what this is. You know, this is a 35 mile an hour turn, and it's just, it's not dramatic. I should also probably preface that the alignment was done by yours truly. So it is, you know, pulling a little bit to the left-ish. I did this literally with my eyeballs. I mean, you can use lasers and you can use, the string method or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm just going to use my eyeballs. And I got it halfway decent. My plan was to, of course, get a real alignment after replacing the wheel bearings and the struts and the lower control arms and all that stuff. And that's where I kind of gave up on it. Hey, from winter of 2025. So I filmed that video a little bit ago, and I have since been sponsored by this company. This is called Gyraline, and I have been doing some DIY alignments on my 1981 Subaru right back there. And so over the summer, I really wish that I would have had this lovely tool to be able to do more than an eyeball alignment on that Nissan Frontier. And so now that I have this, I'm able to get this Subaru into much better alignment than just using my eyeballs or just using the string method or lasers or whatever. This is pretty incredible. I'm going to put a link in the description below all about what the heck that this is. It's a tool where you can do your own DIY alignment at home, and honestly, it's pretty dang good. Back to the video. There is a misfire. I believe it's from the knock sensor. Of course, the knock sensor is located in between the V of the V6, which means you have to take off the intake and have to take off the supercharger, and I was just not willing to do that. Some people do a knock sensor relocate to the back of the supercharger, which seems to work pretty well, which means you don't have to go through a lot of that stuff, but I really didn't really feel like it. So that is the video on this 2002 Nissan Frontier Supercharged, and again, I hate giving up on projects, but this one's just time to go. So if you have a project that you got to the point where you're like, yeah, this is really cool, but I gotta let it go, let us know in the comments below. Also, the Subaru Mazda amalgamation project, the Mazda-roo, maybe you're wondering what the heck that we're doing with that. Well, that project is kind of on permanent hiatus as well. Other fun updates, the school buses that we got, both of those have now been sold and are at a church in Central Oregon, which is pretty fun. Our old pastor ended up buying it from us. Let me see here. The Mercury Capri, that project that I briefly talked about in one of my videos, well, guess what? That one's also gone. But what I got instead was this. This is a 1981 Jaguar Series 3 XJ6. This one has a Chevy Vortec 350 out of a Chevy Suburban, and it's been sitting for about 5 years, so we're going to see what we end up doing with that. The C43 AMG Ute is getting a new engine. That is... hopefully. I have to find the right donor car. That's the whole story on its own. And then I put a Comma AI self-driving computer in my 2017 Mazda 3 GT that works pretty well. So those are the things that we're working on in the Bad Ideas Garage. I always appreciate you subscribing. Say goodbye to this lovely 2002 Nissan Frontier Supercharged. Maybe next summer I will go and find a truck that doesn't have near 300,000 miles on it and doesn't need just horrendous amounts of stuff. Honestly, if I had to buy a truck right now, I'd get a first generation Tundra, one that doesn't have 1 trillion miles on it, but with the iForce V8, that's probably the truck that I would get just for the casual run to Home Depot and maybe go do fun stuff with my kids and do a little off-roading stuff with them. That's probably what I would end up getting. So if you had a different truck that you would just want something that's super utilitarian, one that you're not going to use as your daily driver, what would you get? Make sure and check us out on YouTube, Instagram, and on Facebook, and we'll catch you later.